This is the If More, Let's Divide podcast.
Charlie, yo guys, what happened? Welcome to the If More, Let's Divide podcast. Another week, another episode.
Yeah.
And Charlie, Fred, what did happen?
A base, bro. A base, man. Last night was a movie. Was a street.
You came out last night.
Strangely.
Yeah, Charlie.
That for 10, I tell you, my phone actually died.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mutombo is going to say, you always say,
You come.
you come.
But
Why don't you
never
ask me to never show up? I
Yeah.
turned my phone on. I sat in the car for 20 minutes because he was in charge.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me call this boy because I'm definitely going.
Yeah.
But it was worth it. I had a
Charlie.
good time.
Yeah, it was dope seeing you out. And yeah, guys, with your support, we are here. And by support, I mean subscribing to our YouTube page, liking, leaving a comment, suggesting this podcast to a friend. That's the only way you can support us, and it will help us, it will enable us churn out more episodes week after week.
Yeah.
Fred, who do we have on today's episode?
We have, the scarf over the cap she's wearing is so intriguing to me. I think I could steal that one.
Yeah,
I could steal
because
that one.
her style is
Yeah.
impeccable. Number one, she's always on point. With when it comes to style, she's a multi-disciplinary artist, a creative coach.
Yeah.
She's a co-founder of the Beyond Collective. Her brain is,
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. And bright spirit too.
Yeah, so it looks like we are going to have a dope episode today.
You already know it.
So, Charlie, guys, help us welcome Rania Odaymat.
What up?
Rania, welcome to the If More Let's Divide podcast. I've been inviting you here for some time now, but I know how busy you are, but we are so grateful that you are finally on the podcast.
Yep.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. You, during the pandemic, you started a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Creatives in Accra.
Yes.
How did that go?
It was a learning experience. So I realized I discovered podcasting at the time, actually, because I wasn't familiar with it. As we were discussing earlier, in Ghana, we're not really into podcasts. But with the COVID situation, I was stuck, and I'm like, no. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel bad and I want to complain. Let me learn something new. Let me, do something uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided to learn about podcasting and to do the podcast. It was very interesting because, the people I interviewed were people from our creative family, our circle. And so it was a joy to talk to them and to talk to them in a different way than we normally talked. Yeah. But then one of the things that really made it difficult for me were the technical issues. And because I was juggling my podcast with so many other creative activities that I'm committed to and I'm involved in, when it became problematic and technically, like so many times, for example, the internet, I had people come and fix my internet. I don't know how many times, upgraded, do this, do that. And sometimes, like with the artist Ibrahim Mahama, you know that he was good enough to let me, when the first interview didn't work, we did a second one, and still they failed because I couldn't publish them because of the connection. And so these things were just, maybe if I was focused on that and I had enough time, or maybe partners, it would have been different. So this is when, eventually I'm like, okay, I didn't realize that it's going to eat up so much of my time. I wasn't willing to sacrifice the rest of what I was doing at the time. So I just let it rest.
Would you think you go back to that podcast?
I don't know. I mean, I sometimes I think about it and I just don't know. I don't have the answer. I guess it would depend on so many things. Yeah. But what I do know is that I don't have the capacity to handle it on my own without some kind of partnership. Again, because I have so many other commitments, right?
Yeah. You said something. You said you wanted to do something that was uncomfortable during the pandemic. And I keep on hearing this. Everybody learned something new. I learned how to make beats. Everybody was doing something that wasn't them, right? And I'm also thinking, why didn't we rather better what we were doing? Like, if you were drawing, why didn't you better it? If you were into tech, why didn't you better it? But everybody was trying something different. Why do you think this was a thing? Anybody you talk to, I learned this during last week. They don't learn DJ during the pandemic. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't answer for other people. I have maybe a theory, a possibility. I can start with myself, like what you're saying, right? Yeah. Better what we're already doing. For me, it's not new. I keep on doing that all the time. And I do deeply believe that until I draw my last breath, I have so much to learn. Yeah. So I'm constantly, improving and reading and working on my practice, so many areas of my practice. So I think the idea of going further away into something that was really strange for me is because maybe it's more of a distraction, and it forces you to really focus in a way that even when you're working and improving on something you already have, there's a sense of familiarity. But we were stuck. COVID was the unknown. It was the unknown. It was the unexpected, it was the scary. And so I think maybe it's a needed distraction at the time. Yeah.
Fred, did you learn anything new during?
I was just about to laugh. I'm probably the only person who did. Maybe I learned not to buy too much groceries and stay indoors. But actually, that's when I started walking. I rediscovered walking then, but I walked for a different purpose now. Before, anytime I did exercise, it was about actually just losing weight. And this time I went out to just try and be healthy and make it a lifestyle. And that's been the most sustainable decision I've made in my adult life. Because I still do it to this day. Yeah. So,
That's a great achievement,
So now you work for what?
Just for the purpose of keeping my mind clear. That's so many things for me. I think better in the morning. I structure my day, and I know that it's making me healthy. I'm not walking because I want to lose weight. I'm walking because I know my body is happy that I'm doing this, and I feel completely different from how I felt. During the pandemic or before it, I thought I was going to die. Literally, I mean, I was overweight, and I was always complaining about something. So my family would be like, "Why are you always at the hospital?" Because if I hear Fifi, I'm dead. I'm that type of person. But the walk helped me feel much healthier, but I could also tell my labs and everything else changed around. So it wasn't really about the weight. But then it came along with weight loss as well. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
So Moran, I know with you I can talk to you about everything. So we will go with the flow. From what Fred just said, he walks because he thinks his body needs it. He walks because it helps maybe with his mental state, and all that. And I know you are one person who is in tune with yourself. You are so in tune with yourself, and you've given me so many talks on that front. How do we find ourselves? How do we, or what should we do to find the things we love? Is there any trick? How can someone find themselves?
Oh wow, Mutumbu, Chale, you kill me, because this is such a deep question, and I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah,
You know, I think there is no one path and there is no one answer, right? But know thyself is part of, it's a very, very, very old thought. It's spiritual, it's academic, it's on so many levels, right? And I think that if we don't know ourselves, no knowledge of anybody else or the world around us would be compromised.
Yeah.
So how to know yourself, I guess, starts with just like how to know anything else. Are you excited? Are you curious to know yourself? You know?
Yeah.
And do you find yourself of interest? If you see, you need to develop that relationship that you have with something else that attracts you, that tells you, I'm worth knowing, you know? So it's starting to try maybe and look at yourself in that different light, that I'm worth knowing, even if there are parts of me that I don't like and that I'm not happy with at the time.
Yeah.
And what I think I know about myself, is it really all there is to know? What part of it is my conditioning? You know, what part of it is my education? What part of it is fixed notions that I have about, you know, what I'm supposed to be?
Yeah.
And it's about playing, deep play, exploring, not developing kindness towards yourself, because if you're not kind towards yourself, just like with another person, if you're not kind to another person, they will not open up to you. And if you're not kind to yourself will not open up to you and show you that potential, right? To feed it. So for me, for example, one of the things was working, I realized at some point that I had a very, you know, a saboteur voice in my head, like that toxic voice, you know, that tells you, learning how to listen to that voice and how to speak to that voice, and realizing, Chale, I used to give a lot of power to that voice, and it was the loudest in my head. Why? It's not the only voice that I can. How about I give other voices, you know, the chance? And how about I set healthy boundaries, you know, limits with that voice, like, fine, you're at the table, you know, it's like thinking, okay, I don't know, this might sound weird, but you have a board meeting, right? Because we have so many types of intelligence within us. You have the intellectual, you have the spiritual, you have the intuitive, you have, you know, kinesthetic, you know, that body, you know. Also, do you allow yourself to discover these aspects of yourself? In movement, for me, I had to learn to connect to my body through discovering breathing, through discovering Pilates, yoga, combination dance, you know. So it's not just one area or one thing, right?
Yeah.
It's looking at yourself and trying to develop a relationship with yourself from many different angles and perspectives, and not just, you know, one. And willing to fail.
Yeah.
Willing
to fail.
Willing to fail, and developing a different relationship to failure, because our educational system and our culture stigmatizes failure and makes us feel shame about failure. But then when you study, you know, shame is not a constructive emotion, it's a destructive one, so it keeps you in a vicious cycle. Whereas feeling guilt, you know, is constructive, because it allows you to make amends. It tells you that I'm able to overcome or do something about it, even if it doesn't work. Whereas with shame tells you, oh, you're not good enough, and there's nothing, you just drown and drown and drown. You know, so I don't know that there's any, you know, one answer or one angle. And
different strokes for different folks.
yes, and also different combinations, different timelines. And it's like they compare it to an onion, right? The layers. I mean, an onion, it will make you cry. So that one is the same. You're going to cry. But you peel one layer, then you discover another layer, then you peel another, then it's not something that ever, you know, stops.
I mean,
Fred, before you go,
oh yeah, go ahead.
can you do yoga?
I tried it. I did
You know, if you
Bikram.
do headstand.
I do Bikram yoga. Shout out to Ajwa, my ex. At that time, I was in love.
Yeah.
And she said, this is what we're doing. And I went and put myself in some hot-ass steaming room in Bethesda.
Yeah.
And I went for a week, and I said, Ajwa, if you don't let me stop, I think we're going to break up. But yeah, I've tried it.
Yeah.
Now I don't think I can even
You
do
can
anything
even,
close
yeah,
to.
Yeah.
I'm not flexible.
Yeah,
like that.
you're going to say.
Oh, just to follow up on what Mutombo was asking, I think our offset conversation is kind of leading me to asking you this question where Mutombo is basically talking about finding purpose, discovering yourself and who you are. And I've made myself the resident, for the masses on the podcast in terms of people who are probably listening to us who don't have a similar level of exposure, no disrespect in any way. I mean, exposure is exposure, but, the things that you're concerned with, the things that you're exposed to, the things that you're reading and experiencing. I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm thinking for somebody who's worried about flowing water or how to feed themselves. Does the question ever occur to them? Because I know you have the background to speak to this. That's why I'm asking. To pause and look at themselves for real, as opposed to the surface level of looking at myself when you wake up like, okay, what am I going to eat today? What am I going to do? Do they get time to pause to even process who am I, why am I here, and what is my use or what is my purpose? How do those people, if they don't or whether they do, how do they get past their immediate life's challenges to even focus to go on the layered onion peeling journey that you're describing?
It's also, I think it's a very complex question, right? And I've thought about it long and hard and very deeply. I think definitely what you're describing, it's a privilege to know that. It's a privilege to have the education, to have the exposure, to have the advice from someone, or to have a support system, right? That is not to say that it's easy. For me, it only started after I completely broke down and I went through a really bad depression where I felt like, okay, this could be the end. And it was a year of where I didn't see a light, and deciding, because a lot of people, we don't get to think that way, no matter how exposed or learned or whatever you are, from a place of comfort. It always comes from a place of very, very, very deep pain, anger, disappointment, right? As to, yes, it is very difficult for a person, not because it's not possible, it's just because it wouldn't occur to them that it's possible to change, or it's possible to see things differently, or that this is the power that every human being has. But then, does it work? Yes, it does. Because I can give the example, I have many examples, because in my creative coaching, I've worked for more than 20 years with so many artists all across board, right? I'm not going to name names because of confidentiality, and this is sacred to me. But I can tell you that the degree of privilege sometimes doesn't affect how well somebody does or how they're willing to grow or whether they're willing to do the work. I've had artists come from areas in Accra where they were orphans, they had no families, they had undergone terrible, terrible trauma, like on every single level that you can think of. I was told that in that situation, they did not know what to wish for. They knew that they wanted a change. They were not happy, but they didn't even know what to dream about or what wish to make and how it would look like. But they still felt that intent. The other thing was, sometimes someone told me in a similar situation that at one point was faced with a situation, do I kill myself, don't I kill myself? And without knowing the outcome, decided to not kill himself, And sometimes we don't realize that even when you don't know, when you don't have, none of us have the answers, even when we think we do, right?
Yes.
But so many times it's the little decisions sometimes that we make in difficult moments that create a ripple effect that sometimes we don't need to predict. And I realize that small decisions can eventually lead to huge changes, you know. And with some of these people, some had never heard about me. It was by a chance meeting with someone who was doing a cover story, you know, with a humanitarian organization who put us together. So I think, you know, there's something I can't tell you, even after all these years, all my studies around it, that I can actually give you an answer that I know to be absolutely true. I don't think so. Because I've also worked with people who come from very privileged backgrounds and who from more relatively privileged backgrounds, let's put it like all, you know. And these few people that I have in mind who came from the most terrible background you can think of were able to make much more progress than some of the people who are way more privileged and who still, you know, struggle with finding the courage to, or, you know, to embrace a change or to be seen as bad. Or so for me, I think the closest I can describe it, I guess, is an element of soul and spirit that can be miraculous sometimes, because it can come and be strong in the people, you know, who you think don't have the chance, and somebody you think has the chance might not be able to grab onto or hold onto that. You know, that warrior spirit, that spirit of that hope, that human, like, you know.
So
Yes. That answers my question, though.
So earlier on, you said we should be kind to ourselves. We should be kind to ourselves. How can we be kind to ourselves? What are the things? Like, because when someone tells me to be kind to Fred, maybe I won't fight with Fred, or when I get food, I'm going to share with Fred. But this time, it's to me. Like, should I eat more? Like, being kind to myself. Should I eat more? Being kind to myself. Like, how can one be kind to him or herself?
So Fred gave an amazing answer, earlier when he said that he started walking. You know, and how good it's been for him. You know, it's meditative from what I understand, but it's also, you know, the health benefits, etc. So I think this is a kindness to yourself, right?
Yes.
Because it's about being in touch with your needs. And being in touch with our needs is not just about superficial needs, right? It could be a superficial need, but it's also, how is my body doing? How am I feeling? If I'm feeling, sorry about the word, like shit, you know, do I keep putting myself in situation or doing the things that make me feel like shit, you know? Or if I'm doing something that is creating a problem for me in my relationships, do I keep on doing it, right? Or do I question that? Or if in my career or in my work, I've been trying and working, and I can't find the results. Is it kind to keep on doing the same thing, or do I find something else to do? It's also how we speak to ourselves, right? Imagine, like, right now, I'm in a situation where I have a problem with someone. Like that situation, right, I told you about earlier on, you know, with a lady who, you can talk to yourself in this way and say, oh no, it's all my fault, or what did I do wrong? I don't understand, or I'm such an idiot, or, you know, that voice is always, we all have, you know, voices in our heads that, you know, tell us. Whereas you can go differently about the conversation. Like, even if you're thinking bad words about yourself, okay, you're feeling shame or very disappointment or great resentment in a moment, you know, towards someone, you know, what is the language? Because words have power. And
Yeah.
when you're using them towards yourself, they're power. What are you feeding? You know? So you can be critical. You can be, give tough love.
Yeah.
But how are you doing it? Are you doing it in a way that will break you or in a way that will make you
Yeah.
and empower you,
Yeah.
you know?
But depending on your mind state at a given time, someone would say drinking alcohol, getting drunk every night is him being kind to him or herself, because he or she finds that high, or he or she feels okay when they are drunk.
I mean, we can say all sorts of things to ourselves, right? Self-deception, self-denial are things that, we are all familiar with, I think. But for me, it's not an issue of right or wrong, or does it work for you, doesn't it work for you? If you're going to be, it doesn't work without self-honesty. And if you're not self-honest, it's impossible for you to be honest in a relationship with a loved one or partner, or in your dealings, And the thing that is like, okay, I can tell myself, okay, I can get drunk every night and it's great, whatever. But then if I block myself from feeling that my body is tired, that I'm shaking because I didn't drink, because I didn't drink, I see you, Mutombo, and I blast you, or I get very angry at you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, or because I'm too drunk, maybe I have a terrible headache, it's interfering with my work. So when the signs, how are you feeling? Okay, are you really happy, or are you like down? Are you ashamed, or are you, if you're honest with how you're feeling, this is a sign.
Yeah.
If you're honest about how it's affecting you, this is a sign.
Yeah.
Then you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't necessarily make it true,
Yeah. Fred, do you think you are kind to yourself?
Maybe sometimes I think too selfishly kind to myself. But maybe I'm also misinterpreting being kind to myself, because I don't recall ever feeling like I want to be somebody else. What people do around, my friends, anything that they achieve or their progress has never affected me internally, where I'm nudged or budged or fussed about, oh, but why is my life not? I'm always like internalizing my own journey, where I've come from and where I've gotten to, and just like literally playing back my life to myself, like, okay, maybe 15 years ago, I would have done it this way. Maybe I would have been quicker to anger, but now I'm not. So I'm always internalizing and self-reflecting. So kind to myself, I think I am. Maybe I need to be less kind to myself, because sometimes I need that oomph. Because like I'm listening to you guys talk about learning new things during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And even when you and I started bonding, like for real, I'm like, Mutombo knows how to do this and that and that and that. And I'm thinking, what was I doing with my time, like all this while? So maybe I think if I'm less kind to myself, it will force me to say, oh, but Mutombo knows how to do this and this. Let me also, it will maybe push me and motivate me more. But otherwise, simple answer is I think I'm very kind to myself.
And I think also, listening to you now talking, right? You're calling them both kindness. But I think what you probably mean is self-indulgent. Because to be kind is not necessarily to be self-indulgent, right? And so sometimes it does, to indulge yourself in something that gives you pleasure. But sometimes tough love is the greater kindness. And so there's a distinction, like a fine line between them. It's okay to be selfish. We all need to be selfish. It's healthy, actually. Yeah. But it's a very fine line. It's a nuance, like between narcissism and ego,
Yes.
and healthy self-love. It's a very fine line. So between self-love and selfishness, it's also, you need to be selfish in a positive way.
I think what stuck with me, though, what you just said is about the tough love aspect. So for me personally, I've always known that. I haven't had that streak of tough love from any consistent... because there's not been a consistent person in my life that has insisted you got to do it this way or stop doing that so that's a very good deduction from what I just explained, because I was saying it was kind, but in my head I've gone through this process also where I know that nobody's really holding me accountable and holding my feet to the fire, and I just skate through. But there've been times where I've wished there was somebody who would insist, no, you're not doing that. You're not getting away with that.
This sounds like a therapy session.
Maybe I need to go and see it. 'Cause the only thing I tried new, now that I'm talking about it, during pandemic is for the first time in my life. I think I was to the brink of something, and I called a therapist. I wanted to sit with a therapist. I've never, because I'm always thinking, man, I'll figure it out. But I called him.
It didn't go well.
It did not. So maybe I'll call you.
Sure. Moran, so who is a creative coach? Who is a creative coach?
I don't understand.
So you are a creative coach, right? What do you do?
Oh, what do I do?
Okay. On that front.
It's just, I think, so yes, with the creative coaching, right, I think the best way to describe it is to just support, be there with someone through their process of getting rid of all the, not all, but I mean as much as of the walls and the boundaries that are preventing them from creating, basically. You know, and so many times, like this is a generalized answer, but very often, you know, it can be based on personal patterns of behavior, or it can be based on trauma, or it can be based on socio-political or economic, you know, like most colonial countries struggle in terms of their populations with very similar kinds of patterns. So it could be something like, I find aspects of it generalized amongst all of us who have lived in, you know, in Ghana, let's say. If it's somebody from somewhere else, then no, not necessarily. They won't have. So yeah, it's a combination of doing that personal work of, sometimes it's a little bit of getting exposure and knowledge about specific things that maybe, you know, you couldn't. It's a combination, and it changes from artist to artist, right? So there are common and similar needs, but there are unique needs as well, or unique combinations, let's say, of those needs. But it's really like, I don't do anything, right? I'm just, it's about creating safety, a safe space for somebody to feel that they can be seen, they can be heard. They're not afraid to say whatever they're thinking, no matter how horrible they think it is or whatever, that they're safe enough to say that, to come up with that, and that it's a place where we'll sit with it and where we can try so many different things, you know, ways of responding, even sometimes trying different things, not knowing which one would work, and knowing that, okay, we're just trying to discover a combination of things that work. So it's just about, you know, those trying. It's easier. Sometimes just conversation helps so much. Just having somebody be a sounding board, or as you said, give you a bit of tough love. You know, whether it's, I need tough, we all sometimes, you know, and not tough love as in, you know, I will not accept you anymore or like you anymore if you don't say this or if you don't do that. No, it's like, you're not getting away with, you know, telling me that shit. Or, you know, or that thing you're doing, I'm sorry, but you keep coming to me and saying that this is bothering me. Are you serious about it? Because if the same thing is bothering you, but you don't want to change how you're dealing with it, then don't come and complain to me about it. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't use really a classical approach. I would say I use a more creative and intuitive approach. And it's very personalized to the person, you know, I'm with at the time.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. I feel like the first few moments have been very heavy on subject matter. And I want to stay there, but I want to skip and come back.
Okay.
Yeah, let's change this.
I'm just, from the moment you walked through the door, I was already expecting, because Mutomba had told me about your style and how you carry yourself. But now I'm observing the details of how you've put yourself together. And I'm trying to imagine myself, like, in your mind, what's allowing you to say, let me combine this with that. I see that you're mixing silver and gold. I don't see people do that a lot, but I am a big fan of mixing that. So I'm just observing you in general. My question is, what informs your style? Because it seems deeper than just a surface, like, look at me thing.
It's a very complex question, because, I mean, it depends on the situation, right? And I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine. He's a brother, Neo Budai, this morning, actually. And we were talking about access. You know, that it's very important for artists and people to feel that they can have access to us. Because no matter how much you give people access sometimes in our environment. And so I remembered that part of the styling and how I dress was about access, was about my access as well as other people's access to me. And this is how it started. So early on, when we were practicing, as artists practicing, you know, after growing up, you know, with the coup d'etat and all of that, and, you know, the art scene having declined so much, right? We're all practicing together, but we had so few platforms. Nobody would give us a platform. So I didn't feel, as artists, I wasn't the only one. So many of us felt we didn't have access, right? And so one of the reasons why I started dressing the way I was like, okay, so nobody's going to give me a platform. I'm going to be my own fucking platform. So it's a type of, it's the live part of my art practice, in a way. So this is on my side, right? But then on the side of the others, I also realized that with dress, I can make myself more accessible to other people. So when I'm crazy, you know, or there's something weird happening, for some reason, it makes other people feel that they can come to me and say whatever, and open a conversation with me or ask me, and it gives them that freedom. You know, it breaks that barrier. I've seen it happen again and again early on, and it allows that conversation to happen, even if it starts off being negative, or even, you know, I remember, for example, one of the things I used to, back in the past, right, I had conversations with Eric Donatha, who was an amazing photographer. We did a lot of photographs together, and Kofi Ansa, and we were talking about wanting to have traditional hair in photo shoots, right? And back in the day when I would work as a stylist, you know, we had strict guidelines, like if you're not working for yourself or with somebody whom you trusted, right? You had strict guidelines, like natural hair is a no. And then you had to make the skin look paler, and you had to, you know, all those racist, like, you know, that we have sort of embraced and we judge each other on. And it was, you know, and so I started thinking that, okay, one of the ways in which I can fight that is by collaborating and doing photo shoots on our own, where we use natural hair and we show how beautiful they can be. Because no matter how you spoke to people at that time, they wouldn't believe you, or they wouldn't be convinced. They're not willing to take that chance. Yes. And the other thing was to style afros, to style them in many ways, and to wear them myself, right? And go out, you know, either to an art event or to an event, because nobody was doing that at the time. Yeah. And I would have people come to me, you know, young Ghanaian women, and say, ask me questions about that, and it looks so good, like they like the way and so we'd have a conversation about that, and then eventually people would come and tell me, thank you, you helped me rock my fro. I'm going to, you know, have, so this notion of styling for me was a communication tool. It's part of creative communication, creative visual language that I embraced out of need and because I was looking for a creative solution to existing problems. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, actually.
Yeah.
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 It does.
Very
much so.
Yeah, and also with your style, like talking about your style, side. So you style for fashion events, for.
I don't do it a lot.
A lot, okay.
Because again, I'm juggling too many creative things between my art curation, my work, the creative coaching, But I do it. I do it with myself because, again, we mentioned it's part of my art practice and where it came from, and it's still, it's still, I still use it. But I do it with projects I'm excited about. For example, it was such a joy to style Wiala.
Wiala, yeah. I saw that during the Kia plant, launch.
Yes. Because she's such an amazing, inspiring artist, but also human being. She's so authentic. She's so authentic. She's so smart. She's so funny. She's so talented. And she knows herself, right? You don't feel that this is someone who is weak or is getting, buffeted by the wind or is trying to fit into anybody else's vision of what they should be, And so it was very, very exciting. I was very excited last week to style Beryl Mami.
Oh, wow.
An amazing talent, she collaborated with the Blend Band, which is my musical family band, on a show that, went really, really, really well. And again, amazing singer-songwriter, powerhouse voice, beautiful personality, beautiful person, fun. And so, when it was like, if it's fashion, mental health, if it's something to push African aesthetics or African identity, then yes. So I pick my styling jobs.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're selective.
I'm very selective about the styling as a job that I choose. Yeah.
Cool. So let's go back a little bit. How was your childhood like, and how did it shape you?
My childhood. Wow. I mean, I can tell you, Mutombo, I was very unhappy as a child.
Was it here in Ghana?
Yeah, in Accra. My whole childhood was in Accra. I used to go to the French school in Roman Ridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, school, I loved school. School was great. School was an escape.
Some of us, we don't love school.
I know. I had a lot of friends who hated school, right? So that's the thing, because again, problems in the educational system, approach, whatever. But for me, learning to read, when I started reading around the age of 3.5 or so, it was my escape. And I can tell you that reading at one point saved my life. So I don't remember being happy as a child because I guess I was very different. So I didn't fit into the ideas that my mom had about how her daughter should be, And I also didn't fit into the local concepts of how a girl should behave. Like I bought myself too much. My muff, if I saw somebody being beaten up, I would go. I would go and fight. Yes, I would go and fight. And girls were not encouraged to do that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so based on so many reactions, and you could do this, you can't do that, and girls and no, and girls and no. At that time, you're still weak. Like you start. I really believed. I had a lot of shame, and I really believed that there was something defective, like wrong with me. Like I was born wrong, because I couldn't please my mom. I couldn't fit into, And also, I mean, this is my home. This is my country. I'm Ghanaian. I'm white. So to the average person, you are always an Obroni, but then the white person who's an expat or whatever doesn't see you as white. And then you're seen like, if in case like later you travel, you're seen as suspect or suspicious, like, why are you happy to be African? You know, so you never, it's never like, there's no way to, and so as a child, you know, when I used to think it was a curse, like this not being able to belong anywhere, or you are a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm very grateful for it right now. I think it's actually a great asset. But before I did the work and the healing, right, it was very, very painful and terrible, you know, because like you're constantly feeling like shit, basically.
I mean, it reminds me, so I think there's a theme with, you said you're white.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm brown. Like, if we're going to be technical about it, right?
Are you mixed at all?
No, but then when my sister did a DNA, you know, test, it gave African, Middle Eastern, Asian, you
I
know.
can kind of almost sense that. But
Yes,
So
but that's the old, you know, ancestry. But I'm of Arab descent, you know, when my family came here, it was still the Gold Coast. Right now, you'd say Lebanon, or although on my mom and dad's side it was different. Some of it was the Damascus Protectorate under Ottoman Empire still. So, but an Arab is not seen as white. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not seen as white. And so for me, it's a very weird question because I think I'm some kind of brown, but again, to brown people, I'm not. And then to white people, you know, but I don't care anymore. You know.
So your experience in Ghana is what I'm even where I was leaning with my question, because we've had guests like One Love and Sister Debbie.
Yeah.
And the conversation around being in your skin.
Yeah.
Feeling Ghanaian internally.
Yeah.
And then externally, the kids around you at their age thinking you're other.
Yeah.
And treating you as other.
Yeah.
And then when, like you said, you cross the borders, then people say, well, this person...
They ask you who are you say I'm Ghanaian.
What do you mean you're Ghanaian?
Then
They're
suddenly,
looking at you like you're appropriating something.
Yes.
So that existence must have been, you said you don't remember being happy.
Yeah.
The conflicting nature of it. How, my question is, because I feel like One Love has come to be even more Ghanaian, quote unquote, even though I think he's just as Ghanaian as everybody else, that on the surface, he feels and looks more Ghanaian in terms of his actions and deeds than the kids that he probably grew up with that said, Brony.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you talk, and I'm trying to get out of, for my own understanding, what that journey entailed for you to now not create your identity, but accept your identity, the multifaceted nature of it.
You know, to be fair, like my feeling of the pain in my childhood was not only due to that, right? It was due to that, but it was also due to the intergenerational trauma from my parents. It was due to like so many things, okay? So it was not only that. To answer your question, I think it made me be more myself and try to create spaces for people to be themselves. Because I think that when we don't accept diversity, it's impossible to grow. And so for me, that curse that I was talking about, that now I see as a blessing, is that when you don't really belong, right? And it's almost, you feel it's almost impossible for you to truly belong, then it makes you think creatively about what is the solution. Am I going to be part of that, or am I going to be part of the change? And then what does it mean to belong, you know? And who do you belong to? And do I even belong to myself? Am I being, you know, am I honoring myself? Am I being authentic? And so I guess it taught me to be more authentic with myself and to be much more courageous in terms of, if I'm my authentic self and I get rejected or I'm not accepted, I'm fine with that. You know what? It's nothing new, and I'm okay. And I stopped, you develop like mechanisms not to take it personally, like, to try. Of course, sometimes it still hurts, but you develop healthy detachment. You try to understand, but you also create new types of relationships. You have those conversations with people. What does identity mean? What kind of identity do we have? Is it something that is limited? Is it something that is dynamic? Is it something that is exclusive? Is it something that is inclusive? What kind of relationships are we investing in? And this is so many of the questions that our friends, some of our friends who we all, for one reason or another, were going through our identity crisis, right? Either because somebody is, Obroniola's is mixed, for example, like, or somebody is black, but they were sent to boarding school in the UK, and there they experienced a lot of racism. Then they come back with a British accent, and suddenly they're outsiders here too. You know what I'm saying? So I think it makes you realize that our concept and understanding of identity is very fixed and limiting. And as long as we don't understand the brainwashing that makes it so limiting, it's impossible for us to broaden that. But by broadening that, Nkrumah was someone who understood that a lot, that diversity. That diversity is a source of wealth.
Yes.
Human wealth, right? But then you have to be much more conscious then of how do we navigate that? How does healthy interdependence mean? What does it mean? I can't tolerate somebody if I don't tolerate myself. If I don't find self-acceptance, right? I can't pretend to be, I'm Ghanaian, yes, I'm not the man on the street. If I try to pretend it's fake, it's a lie, because I didn't grow up on the street. I was in asylum down in a house. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make me less Ghanaian. So, trying to think about, like, beyond, not to be, I guess, not sell yourself in order to belong, but actually, we all need to belong, but to ask yourself at what price? And what am I belonging to consciously? And if I can't find the place where I can belong, I will create use the help of other people, collaborate with others to create that space.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You sure say today we go stay
yeah,
within boundaries?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
I'm loving this.
Go
ahead.
Yeah. So you've given given us a little bit of rundown about your childhood, and the stuff you went through, and all that. I enjoy listening to real stories from folks like you. So I won't hesitate to, ask you this, because it's something that I also, in my own way, struggle with, like being able to say, fuck everybody, this is me, this is what defines me, so I don't care about what people say. I have this large birthmark on my thigh, very, very big, and it's dark. And back in primary school, our shorts, it was short, right? So friends would see it, and then they would laugh, right? One time I came home, took a blade, a razor blade. Ooh. Yeah. I came home, took a razor blade, and started to scrape. The next morning, it was, pus, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere, pus. Then my grandmom saw and got so pissed. My mom saw, got so pissed. And they were like, if this thing heals, I won't even see a scar. It's going to come back the same. Truthfully, it healed, and when I show you right now, you won't think I did that. It was crazy. I couldn't sit for a very, very, very long time. I had to fight and fight and fight before I got to that stage of saying, fuck everybody, this is me. Now, I don't even think about it, right? How do we get to that stage where we say, fuck everybody, this is me? I'm sure, Fred, you have something that you are not so secure, you are insecure about something. It could be the way you talk, it could be how you watch, like it could be anything, right? And you are so conscious about it. You know, the same for me. How do we get to that level of fuck everybody? Do you know? You?
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were asking
How
Fred.
do we get to that level? Like,
it was gradual. I mean, I could, for me, it was gradual. And I think, again, we go back to the balance and the fine line, right? Fuck everybody, not in the sense of being cruel to somebody else or whatever, but fuck everybody, because you can't wait on anybody to give you validation about who you are, right? And I think it's starts with self-worth. When you start dealing with your self-worth, when you start, then it gives you more confidence, it gives you more strength. And then although things keep hurting you or you feel things, obviously, but they don't break you anymore. Yeah. And that's when you are capable of saying, fuck everybody. Like for me, for example, one of the things, my hair started graying when I was 15 years old.
wow.
Here in Accra. And I was so scared the first time people pointed at me and said, witch.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So and then if it were somebody who's Lebanese or expat or whatever, it was like the old, that to expat is old age, and to Lebanese the worry that she'll not find a man to appreciate. So all of that, when you're at the age of 15, you're not confident enough, you're not strong enough to say, oh, fuck them all. I'm going to rock my hair. I started coloring it for years and years and years. I lost half my hair. It got to the point where every 7 days, you had to, but there, you get to a point, right? It's about doing the work we were talking about. Yeah. It all depends on your self-acceptance. If you lack self-acceptance, then another person's lack of acceptance could break you. When you grow in self-acceptance, it affects you less. When you have greater self-acceptance, then although you're human and it might hurt you, but it won't, it's like, yeah, okay. Look, I love you, but I mean, I can't compromise, myself or change the way I look or the way God created me or whatever, or what I believe in, if it's an issue of justice, let's say, or, just so, my paddies will invite me to that party, I have to see somebody mistreating, let's say, I don't know, a waiter, and shut up about it, because I want to be part of that crowd, right? So the more secure you are, the stronger you are inside, more accepting towards yourself you are, the easier it is to say, fuck you. Yeah. No, I'm not putting up with this shit, or I'm not okay with this shit. There's you learn to put healthy boundaries. I didn't grow up knowing or feeling that I could put healthy boundaries to anybody. Right. I had to learn it one step at a time.
Wow.
So I was reading a bit about your background, your educational background, and what you studied. I think at some point you had a very prominent person as a mentor.
Yes, Miss Angela Christian. Yes.
And then even when you came back from your studies, you linked up with an artist, Clotte.
Seth Clotte.
Yes.
So you seem to have a rich history of education, being able to study, and gone to the highest level of academia to try and, I guess, just make yourself the best person that you could be. But then in listening to you, you've also had on the surface, when you read your bio, it sounds like a privileged life.
Yeah.
And then when you talk to you realize you've had all kinds of challenges, societal, imposed, cultural, all kinds of different things. And you've evolved through that. And somehow, you're a therapist, right?
I mean, I don't call myself a creative coach.
A creative coach.
Yeah.
So in that space, when you're operating, I guess my question was rather, what led you into the space that you're in from your educational background, studying languages and all of that, to where you find yourself now? Did you think you were going to be in academia, or you were going to be in the creative space that you wanted to?
I always wanted to be in the creative space. Academia was imposed on me.
Okay.
So, I mean, as a young child, you know, I would get feathers and make long, weird, like earrings and whatever, get shouted at, tear my clothes up and, you know, create some weird styles. Also, it's like, what is wrong with her? Like, why, you know? And so, I mean, I was always creative. I was always rebellious. I was always questioning, you know, or thinking to myself, or trying to learn and explore and try different things. And my mentor in my teenagers was Miss Angela Christian, and she was like a grandma to me. She was like a mother to my mom. She never married herself or had kids, and my mom and her had this kind of relationship. And Miss Angela Christian was chief of protocol during Nkrumah's regime. She was also, at one point, I think the ambassador of Ghana in the US or something, you know, in the embassy. I don't remember. She was a writer. She was one of the first that I know of curators and creative facilitators on the continent. And she used to teach protocol for people in the diplomatic corps. But my mom and her had that relationship, and my mom was struggling with me at the time. Like, she didn't know what to do with me. And she felt that I needed lessons in etiquette and protocol. And what? Like, this is my nightmare. So she's like, baby, basically washed her hands and like, Miss Angela can deal with me. You know what I'm saying? And I go there, and the way I squeezed my face that day, because, you know, no. And she's looking at me, and obviously she could tell, because she knows me well, you know. She could tell that, she said, so what's the problem? I said, this. I don't want to learn how to sit. What kind of stupid person learns how to sit and how to, you know, like, and I said, okay, you have to use good language, because, you know, she was very proper. Yeah. You know, she was raised in the UK. She was very proper. Like, see how I'm lying back down? Forget. This is how Miss Angela, she was in her 70s, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, right? But everything was proper with her. She was very open-minded as well. And she's like, okay, then I have an exercise for you. Go to the garden and watch. You can choose between a lizard or a gecko. You have to watch it for half an hour, observe, and write a 500-word essay describing its beauty. And in my head, I said, this is insane. You know, I'm like, what? What is she asking me to do? But when I thought about, would I rather do this or study etiquette? I'm like, no, I'm going to see that. I'm going to see the lizard and write, you know. So I ran outside, you know, and watched it. And, you know, obviously, and I loved her. I respected her, right? So I'm sitting there, and she's not the kind of person, you know, she had that aura. She's not the kind of person you take lightly, or I was like, I'm pretending to write an essay or whatever. So I was attempting, you know, to do a good job. I start observing the lizard. I'm like, starts with the movement. Then I see the environment around it, and then I see the reflection of the sunlight and how when it changes, you know, and then I get mesmerized with the dance. You know, the aerodynamics, the dance, the movement of the body, all of that. And I get a little bit lost in that. And I write this essay, and I come back the next day, and she's like, you're not going to study etiquette. We're going to work on...
This is your calling.
Yeah, we're going to work on art appreciation, and a part of it was being her assistant, basically. And so many artists used to come, you know, to her. Some from as far as Ethiopia, Cameroon, you know, Nigeria. I think in the first print of the artist Barthemius, you know, there's a Barthemius Award. In the first print of of his artworks, there's a mention and a dedication to her because she also worked with him. And I also had a teacher at the French school here, a British guy called, he was an English teacher, Mr. Fisher, who had Crohn's disease and who struggled with a lot of pain, and he found his therapy in photography. And whenever he had, and at that time, you know, the treatment for Crohn's disease wasn't easy, so it was very tough all the time for him. And so he was fascinated with going, whenever he had a break or he had a weekend or a long weekend, he would go outside of Accra and photograph nature and villages and come back. And I had a really strong connection to him because he got me and he understood, you know, me as a child. And he exposed me to photography and he allowed me to help him, you know, go through the images, comment, you know. So when I was about to go to university, I wanted to do a double major. That was my dream, to do a double major, fine arts and performing arts together, because I was interested in both of them. And my mom hit her head and started screaming the French word, artist! You think she's screaming prostitute? My daughter wants to be a prostitute. What? It's like blasphemy. It's like, no way. You know?
Wow.
Again, you go back, you're not independent enough, you're not strong enough, you're not at the time to go against like everything. And I said to myself, like, what is the next thing I like the most? Although I was very, very, very unhappy. Like, I didn't want to be studying anything else. But the thing I loved was actually reading and knowledge and understanding language, right? And so I picked that as an option because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, you know, and I learned a lot from it, but it wasn't something that ever fulfilled me or satisfied me. I worked for some time with a UNDP, and then when I came back home to Ghana, I'm like, no, this is not sustainable for me. I don't, you know, it gave me a lot, right? It gave me a lot of discipline. It gave me a lot of structure. It gave me a lot of the formal knowledge, right? Conceptual thinking, all of that. It helped a lot with that. So that I appreciate. I don't, you know, and then I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so that's when I met Seth Clote. And he was a wonderful teacher for 3 years. I really, truly respect him because one thing he did for me was that I learned so much from him, but at the same time, it never affected, he never tried to control my creativity or my own creative voice or vision, which is, for me, it's something very unique and to treasure in an artist.
Yeah. You are into the art. You are, you know, your own artist, an artist in your own right. Would you say Seth Clote helped you get into art?
He helped me a lot, of course. Get into art, maybe not, because as I mentioned, I was interested and involved since my childhood, and I think I owe a lot to Seth, and I'm very grateful. But I think also Miss Angela earlier had a very, very strong, memorable impact as well. You know, it just in different ways. But also my education, you know, at university, which I hated, which I mentioned I hated, right? Also helped shape the kind. So it's really, I think, a combination of all those things. But if there's one that stands out a little bit more, I would say Miss Angela, because what I learned with her and on the knees of my grandfather, you know, about Nkrumah and the importance of investing in the arts, because, you know, she really believed that there can be no long-term practice of freedom and independence without a solid investment in the art and culture.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those conversations and thought, I carry them with me. And if there's anything that drives or has driven or continues to inspire my creative journey, I think it would be that. Although everything, like I owe so much to so many people, right? And one of them is Seth. Yeah. But like, I think if we're talking about a driving thought or direction, then it would be Miss Angela primarily. And also that thought, you know, Nkrumah, my grandfather, like the idea of the importance of an artist as, you know, somebody who introspects, somebody who you know, creates a cultural voice for society in a way, who's a driver of change, who's, you know, all those things.
Yeah, you actually keep on mentioning your grandfather and Kwame Nkrumah. Were they friends or did they work together?
Yes, and my grandfather was very much part of, he was appointed by Nkrumah as the first speaker for Ghana at the UN. Oh. And he was very much part of the independence movement. He was so proud, like...
your maternal or paternal?
My maternal, yes, my maternal grandfather. He grew up in Sekondi, and then the family moved to Kofridwa. That's where he was raised. Yeah.
So, what kind of artist would you say you are? Like, what kind of artist? What type of art do you do? People draw, people sculpt, people, you know, do pottery.
I mean, I work with different media, so
anyway, you see that it was given to me by Mama Ran.
the monkey?
Oh.
No, the wooden thing.
Yeah.
The wooden. It was a series that she did, you know, some years back. I think 2 years ago or something.
And he photographed the process and made amazing photographs of the process.
And she gave me.
Yes. It was for the architectural review. They have the W Awards for women, the best female architects, and I was asked to design the award. And the award was actually a trophy, but that is not a traditional trophy. So this was one, you know, I sent them, and this was one of the pieces that came with that collection.
Right. Yeah, so you were talking about the kind of art that you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult for me. It depends, I think. I use different media. So I do painting. Nowadays, if I paint, I prefer doing it with acrylic painting. I also do sculpture. I make jewelry. I'm working with AI. Sometimes I do performative,
your photos, I've been seeing photos.
Multimedia, you know. I've done mixed media photography, you know. So for me, it's never, it starts with the inspiration or the creative idea. I use words as well. Words and language are a medium. So I write sometimes poetry, sometimes, you know. And I try not to, obviously not every medium works for me, you know, but for me it starts not with the medium, but it starts with the concept or the idea and what it is that I want to say and what is the best medium that would serve me at the time to say it. And sometimes it's a combination. I'll do mixed media, you know, or multimedia installation.
You earlier on, we were talking about things offset, but you had spoken about an era that created a void. It's never properly spoken about. Now you're co-founder of the artist,
the
Beyond Collective.
Yeah.
And several involvements in curating different spaces involved with just, you know, the arts in the country, which you've already spoken profoundly about how, you know, important it is for the progress of any nation. My question is, what are you thinking or doing on your own and collectively to make the arts not only have an impact, but preservation of it, in the sense that future generations don't come and have to imagine what it used to be like, but they can touch, feel. Essentially, museum spaces, how you're, all of the work that you guys are doing, how you intending to make it have an impact, but also how you intending to preserve it for future generations so that we don't experience that void that we experienced from that era we spoke about.
Hi, Fred. To tell you the truth, I've thought about this a lot, but I've decided that there's so much, only so much that I, as one person, can do, and I have to trust that other people will do other parts, you know? I mean, for me, I was so involved, like, in growing and empowering the artists around me, like, you know, in investing in ourselves here on so many levels, whether it's with my creative coaching, with my time, with the different things I juggle between. So with time-wise, financially-wise, whatever, I'm always constantly stretched to the maximum, you know, because of this faith and this belief in the importance of that. There's so many aspects of it, right? We talk about that, the importance of preserving. So there is conversation, there is awareness about that. But I don't have the capacity or the extra energy or the extra time or the extra money. Like, so much of what I have is already invested, you know, and has been for a long time, and it keeps, and sometimes, you know, it's heavy. So we just have to trust. I think change happens in ripple effects. Sometimes we can't really predict how the ripples will happen and where they'll go. And I think that nothing is the job of one person. Even I, as a creative, you know, I don't create from, I don't think in African culture, or we are ever purely individuals, like in the individual sense in the West, you know. Even my own creativity and my own work is always coming from a place of community, you know, if not for the context and for that community and for those inspiration and how we empower each other and the things we care about and the things we want to express and the conversations we're having, right? So much of that. And so I think I have to trust that I do what is in my power to do, but I can't tackle everything, and I don't want to. You know?
That's brilliant.
So earlier on, you said when your mom found out that you were going to do art, she yelled, you know, and all that. And that thing, to a certain degree, still goes on now.
Yeah.
You know, most mothers want, or most parents want their kids to be doctors and lawyers and engineers and all that.
They're not being paid, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
And even in schools, like, you know, art isn't given the same attention as the sciences and, you know, and the math and all that. I don't know if you are the right person to ask this, but why is it so?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was like my own mother ended up changing her mind or accepting that, you know, me and my brother, one of my brothers. But some people I know, I have conversations with a lot of artists who face a lot of opposition from their families, okay? I think part of the problem is the Western ideal, right? Which had to do with the Industrial Revolution. Because the type of educational system that we have here is a relic of those, you know, that type of educational system, which was about empowering. At the time, I think when Europe was in that industrialization phase, they explored and they researched different educational systems. So the one that they ended up adopting wasn't necessarily the best one or the only one. It was the one that would serve the needs of that revolution and in the most affordable way for them, right? And so this was what was brought here. But then you add the mission, you add the agenda of the mission, you know, the colony, whatever. And so within that, there are two things, right? So as the Industrial Revolution, so that is what it focused on, creating people who were specialized, who were technical, you know, because that was what would serve the economic needs at the time. And the other aspect is you find it in so many colonies, whether in you look at Algeria, Morocco, so many places. You look at places like Lebanon, for example. You know, one thing is when you divorce a people from their language and their arts, you divorce them from their sense of identity, so they become weaker, divide and rule. When they're weaker, they're easier to rule. And I think this is where, you know, because if we look at traditional African culture, art was very much part of everyday life. It was part of community. It was part of design, you know, on the mud huts or buildings. You know what I'm saying? It was part of social rites of passage.
Yes.
It was part of so many things, right? But then after that colonization and that the implementation of that system of education, that's when art became this, you know, thing to look down on.
Yeah. Should I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, but now, so there is a rise, you know, with like art exhibitions, art shows around Accra, up north, you know, Tamale. Shouts to the Nuku Studio. Shouts to Red Clay and all that. They are doing amazingly dope stuff. But almost every month there is an art exhibition going on. Gallery 1957 to La Gallery. You know, there are so many galleries and, you know, museums. Galleries throughout town.
Ada,
Ada,
Noldor residence.
Not Noldor resident, and all that. So many. Nubuke, yeah. So many. Why is there a rise in these, you know, spaces, and is there something that could be, you know, changed when it comes to art, you know, here in Ghana?
What do you mean change?
Like, is there a way to make it better? Like, is there?
Oh, there are always ways to make it better.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's also quite a complex question. I think part of it is the timing, you know, because again, somebody was mentioning at some point Africa keeps being rediscovered from time to time, right? And suddenly, you know,
now it's an Afrobeat.
yeah. And so there is this sudden trend or interest in this art. But I think, honestly, we don't have enough galleries. There are many more creatives who don't have access or who don't have spaces. We're very creative people, right? And for me, it's great to have all these galleries, but it's still not enough because not every, you know, a lot of artists don't find anywhere to exhibit or to support their work. And also I feel that, okay, commercial galleries are all right, but we don't have any institutions, although I'm not sure, you know, the meaning of institution right now is exactly.
Yeah.
It's worth looking into and questioning and seeing, like, what do the institutions of the future look like? And will we even call them institutions, right? Because what is the best way to transfer knowledge, to get, for me, the ideal place would be to make art accessible to the average person. And I don't feel that it should only be elitist. Okay, maybe the elite can afford to buy it, but it doesn't mean that just because you can't buy the art, you shouldn't see it or be exposed to it or have a conversation about it or reflect about it, right? And so for me, I'm very interested in, what I think SCCA and Nuku are doing in Tamale from that perspective, right? Not from a perspective of commercial gallery. From that perspective is much more exciting because it's very community inclusive, right? And so for me, that's very exciting. And I think this is what we should get into more of, even with the Beyond Collective, for many, many years, that has been our concern and always a point of reflection. How can we, so that's why from the inception of the collective, we decided early on that all our exhibitions are going to be open to all, but then you learn that even if you give access, the issue of access is complicated.
Yes.
And sometimes people will not come just because they have a preconceived notion or they're intimidated by the space or because they can't afford to take the to pay for transport or so many reasons we had to learn all those things and feel pain because I'm like, why did this thing not occur to me, right? Or why didn't we think about it? And so I think I would like to see more of that. I have also very big question marks about the concept of how the art world in general is structured. I think it's hyper-capitalistic, just like, it's so many times it can be not authentic enough, I guess, or, not representative enough. Also, there's specific trends, like with the portraits with red eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying I didn't like them, like with the first time I saw them, right? And I feel that it's very valid, and I'm very happy for that person to have success and to see it as a form of representation or a way of looking at it. But then it becomes problematic when it becomes a trend, and when so many then artists want to mimic and draw African people in that same way. Then it starts, to me, just because it's trending, right? Then to me, it becomes a problem because you look deeper into the symbolism, and like when so many people are drawing African people in that way, then you start thinking, but Chale, in Ghana, if you say somebody, I read, it means something else. Or in the West, with red eyes means vampire. Like, it's fine if one artist draws, but when suddenly a lot of artists feel under pressure to draw in the same way, then for me, suddenly, something that was very interesting starts becoming negative and like fixed, like we're trying to stereotype, and sometimes I feel that galleries should be more aware and pay more attention to these kinds of things, and
I mean, I've asked that a question
about the blackface.
Along those lines. So to extend Mutombo's question, was bringing you to this answer that you just gave. The space, the art space, we all know is very important. We all know is very vital. For as an observer, somebody who's not deeply involved, but I'm on the periphery of it, I'm around people who are involved, so I get to experience. A lot of times going into those spaces, you're right, it feels intimidating to an outsider because of the quirkiness, the eclectic nature. People are expressive, they're dressed differently. It's almost like you're in the midst of super confident people who know exactly what they're doing, and they all look different, and you walk in there, maybe you're just a regular Joe. So you're not able to maybe get in there and connect. But I have a question further than that, because the art scene is going to be the art scene. It's a place where people are going to congregate and be who they are. But the art itself is where my question or my issue lies. Is the art expressing the reality of the community? Because you mentioned about how we as a people, generally, as Africans, we've always been community-oriented. Is our art reflecting our reality, our experiences, our joys, our pain, our concerns? Because I don't particularly, I can't, maybe outside of our guy, he's political.
Bright, okay.
Bright and some few others who are speaking to a specific subject matter. I don't know what the art, that the contemporary art now that I'm experiencing, I don't know what it's saying when I observe it. Like, so when I go to Gallery 1957, I see a bunch of pastel colors of different African youth expressing in different ways, but I don't know the message. I don't know the story. I don't know what the artist is trying to convey to me as a consumer of art. And I want to know your perspective on it.
I mean, I don't think it's fair to brush everybody with one stroke, you know, to use a painting, because I think that we do have artists who are being authentic. But right now, for example, I think artists, again, when we talk about diversity, right, it's very, very important to have that diversity. Not everybody can be bright. You know, Nana Anof does, you know, comment, you know, in his painting acrylics or watercolors, he does the daily struggles, right? So let's say Mutombo is a photographer who photographs the everyday in Accra.
I actually see a lot of art stories in his photos.
In his photos, right? His focus is the everyday, right? But it doesn't mean that every artist's or photographer's focus. For example, yes, for example, Francis Kokroko, Accra Photo, is also an amazing photographer. He focuses.
One of my favorite interviews.
He's like an amazing mind, an amazing person, photographer. You know, love his work. He doesn't do exactly. Sometimes his work and yours, you know, will come close to each other, but. He does documentary photography. He's also done art photography, right? And the subjects he takes are sometimes different, although he takes, you know, the everyday as well. But then you have photographers like Eric Jamfi, who's or Ni Obodai, who are fine arts photographers, right? And it doesn't mean it's not us. It doesn't mean it's not Ghanaian. I think there's so many dimensionalities of being Ghanaian. For example, with Eric Jamfi's work that he went to Mampong. He sat at the herbal center in Mampong and did studies based on plant medicine, and he used the plants to create his works. And he created like a forest of prints that flow, and they're so beautiful. But of course, it's abstract, right? And you can decide to study it to whatever degree. Neo Buddha is another one. Like for me, his work speaks to the soul, to our identity, to the kind of environment, you know. So it's very different layers, right? Okay. And I think artists need to do that. Artists don't need to all be saying the same thing, because nobody has the same story. And out of, you know, there's so many reflections and thoughts and feelings and concerns, and it's very rich and it's very diverse, and we shouldn't limit. Like I know that, you know, from a perspective of African art, right, many of us, most African artists, we can't afford to do art for art's sake. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Most, in a lot of cases, like, sure, you have galleries who turn, like, okay, you know, you're like in a factory, you're doing, you know, it can be, oh, this is in right now, let's do more of that, right? And this you can immediately see, if you're familiar with art or whatever, the superficiality, the commodification of that, the fact that, okay, it's part of, you know, money making. But I think that, honestly, in our environment, like, for example, what Poetra does, you know, is so rich. What Ibrahim Mahama is doing is so rich. What Serge Clotet is doing is so rich. Like, all of these people are very different from each other, and their art forms are very different. But does it mean, and I think all of them, those that I mentioned, are very authentic, you know, and are giving us a dimension of their experience and what it means, you know, to some extent to be Ghanaian or to be in this space, or to what concerns they have, or what they worry about, or what they're dreaming of, or hoping, what they want to express to others.
Maybe a better spotlight of the question is, are the people that you're describing getting the necessary exposure that they need for the masses to consume the work and maybe inspire some of that change, some of that thought, like get the grinders going?
You know, some are and some aren't. And, you know, I think there's a crisis everywhere, you know what I'm saying? So not everybody to the same extent, not necessarily the best ones always, you know, but some of the best ones are getting the recognition, which is amazing. I think what you're describing, the masses, I hesitate to say the masses. I don't know, like everyone maybe, or I would wish to, but the only way I see it happening in Accra is through initiatives or by making street art, you know, art for the streets. Because in the absence of museums, of institutions, how will the average person every day have access to it? Like I know that in, as we mentioned, in SCCA Tamale and Red Clay and Nuku Studio, right? They are thinking with the Beyond Collective here, you know, when we did our open doors where the lady selling plantains would put her pan and come up to me and ask me to take her through the exhibition and explain it to her. And I can't describe that moment, for example, or these types of moments, or the tailor on the street, you know, who finished his day of work and comes, is like, I want to know what you guys are, can you tell me about, you know, this? And so, but we did it in a more limited fashion because we don't have like a fixed location, right? Whereas at Nuku and in Tamale, they're doing it much more consistently and growing into that, right? Making anybody can come at any time. You see children, you see people working, you know, and they're around the art. They're free to ask about it. They're free to, like at Nuku Studio, the last exhibition we went up to for Jesse Shipley.
Roots of Rebellion.
Oh my God, the kids, they finish school and they run to Nuku and they're around. They help carry water, they do this, they do that, and they didn't want to go home. And we're like, at one point, I heard the ladies, I saw them getting anxious. And I'm like, what is happening? And they're like, we're worried because the parents are gonna, if their kids are not home by now, they're gonna start being seriously worried that something happened to them, but they're refusing to go.
But that's good.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
Dope. Good. Mama Ran, I mean, that's how I call you. You have been curating too. Some months ago, you curated an exhibition at La Galerie by this dope artist. Yo, Fred. Is it still on?
Tay?
Yeah,
His
Tay.
work, Tay, what?
Yeah.
No, it's not on.
You should have seen those works, like crazy.
La Gallery is the new one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it Lorraine or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
How did you get into curation, like exhibitions, you know, and all that? Did it come from you being into the arts, and why didn't you do any other thing within the arts, but you decided to, you know, create?
Tombo, hold on one second. The Tay guy you're talking about, is it the one with the big, like, structures, like aluminum?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I saw it.
Yeah,
I've seen it like 3 times.
Yeah.
I've been to that shop just to see.
Crazy.
How did I get into it? Just like so many other things, just like the creative coaching, because of necessity. Not because if you asked me, I didn't really particularly want to be or thought to be a curator. You know, I'm happiest when I'm creating. If I want to be, you know, selfish and think that what makes me the happiest, where am I freest, where do I flow the most, is when I create. But it happened because when we started the Beyond Collective early on, you know, even before that, right, when we were doing our work as artists, even before doing the Beyond Collective, it was, I don't know whether you remember the art scene back then in Accra. It was like more akin to a supermarket, you know. So there was no really any sort of curation or display, and it hurt the artist. It hurt the value of the work. It you know, everything. It was this vicious cycle because, and so realizing that whenever we would do work or whenever another fellow artist would do the work, then I started paying attention to that, studying up on that, trying to help with that, doing it for myself, doing it for others, right? And it started because there was nobody there to do it for us. And I realized that, nah, it's not so great when there's no attention at all to any of that, right? And then we established together with the founding members of the Beyond Collective, the Beyond Collective. And by default, like I was voted as the curator of the collective, and it was supposed to be temporary because it's a very, very big responsibility, right? And it wasn't because I really, you know, thought that I would do that or really, you know, dreamed of doing that. It was everybody at the time in the collective picked me to do it. And I thought about it, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine. And I remember him telling me, you don't get to decide, you know, if nobody else is around to do it, then you have to do it.
Yeah.
And so it started as, okay, this temporary thing. But then, you know.
It's here to, it's actually here to stay.
Let's see. Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen the exhibitions that you have worked on, curated, and they're all dope. Like the last, not the last, but the last major Beyond exhibition, which was at the Icon House, like some years back. The curation was sweet, and even your recent one with Tay.
It's something I actually would love to do. You know?
Yeah.
I did it for my brother, but it was very novice approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you curated this exhibition in the UK last 2 years. I think I was there. The one with...
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't curate that?
I didn't curate.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe I helped. Yes, it was. Yes. But it wasn't like it was for the Remember Me project that I did in collaboration with Francisco Croco. It's about the female lifers and condemned at Nsawan prison. And so we were invited by the Bella Foundation to do an exhibition at the October Gallery in the UK.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really do the curation for that, but I helped with the display and the choice of, you know, framing and stuff. It was a little bit of, whereas, for example, when we showed it at the Beyond Collective, I did the curation. And together with Nana, we came up with the big frame made out of barbed wire, you know what I'm saying? So cool. It's so that really, like, there's a concept.
Was that one held in Ghana?
Yes.
Yeah.
At Icon House.
Oh, Icon House. Is that next to Urban Grill?
Yeah. Under, below. Yes.
I still have photos of that. You did that?
Yeah.
I curated it, and I was one of the participating artists in it.
Is that Femi was involved with?
Femi was involved. Of course, Femi is the lawyer who she's the founder of the Fair Justice Initiative, and she's the one who first took me to the prisons and told me, you know, that there is this issue, like we give facts, but it doesn't change people's perception. And because I'm an artist, and I realized, and so we discussed, I'm like, yes, but in psychology, studies show that people don't change perspective based on facts. They change based on feeling and connection. And so that's where she invited us to do an advocacy project with the prisoners, you know, to actually create that awareness and to change the conversation. And so
super kudos for that. The only reason I was asking is it's one of the most memorable exhibits I've been to since I moved. It was. I still have photos on my phone.
Oh wow!
Yeah. There was this spirit, this
it grabbed me. Like I can see it literally in my head right now. It's stuck in my head.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Wow. Awesome.
So Fred, before.
I just want to ask you 2 quick questions because I know the answers are going to be quick. First one is what do you think of George Hughes, the artist, if you know him? And then the last part of that question would be that with all the work that you've done and poured your spirit and soul into, what do you want your legacy in that space to continue to be? What are you designing for the culture of like the art space in Ghana?
Okay, about George Hughes, I don't think it matters what I think. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I'm trying to. I like him. I wanted to maybe get a piece, but I was trying to see perspective on what his work means or if he has any impression on you. But yeah, if nothing, then I got you.
sorry.
That's okay.
It's not that, I don't appreciate, but it hasn't moved me very deeply or made me like reflect or think or, see something from a different perspective.
I think it's more of a Western sentiment in his work for me when I look at it. It doesn't remind me of African, but that's my personal perspective on it.
And I think in a way there's a sense of that for me too, and that's why, I'm like, it's good. It's but it doesn't like I feel affect me a lot, if that makes sense, right?
Yes. Understood.
To think in terms of legacy, if anything, I think I don't know. I don't think much of that. I think I'd like to see great change. Not necessarily just for myself, with the way things are, to have people feel more empowered, to have people feel more free, to have people feel more able to take risks. If there's any part of that in small, I think we're grains, right? Grains of sand. And I always see what I do as I'm this grain of sand. And in terms of legacy, I hope for a legacy of love and connection that creates enough communities and enough grains of sand to be able to make a difference, if that makes sense.
Dope.
Wow.
Dope. Yeah. People are trying to stay away from talking about what's going on in the Middle East, Gaza especially, for reasons best known to them. And there are people too who are speaking about it. You recently spoke about it through art. Yeah. Why did you feel the need to speak about what's currently going on in the Middle East through art?
I think for me it wasn't a choice, right? I think you knew that I was juggling different projects at the time, right? But then when this started happening, sometimes as an artist or as a person, you are moved by something so much that it wants to burst out of you. And so that, it wasn't that I consciously chose to do that work. It came to me, and it kept, if I didn't do it, it kept bothering me. It kept, taking space in my mind until I sat down to do it. Why did I do it? I think for me, this situation is extremely painful on so many levels, because historically, in terms of identity, it's close to me, it touches me. I know a lot of people personally that it touches. Also, it touches me from a perspective of my home country, because I see this happening in the world again and again and again. Like the African genocide, with the slavery, whatever. And now the Palestinian genocide. But that I wasn't there to witness or to do anything about. This, I am here. The killing of children in this way, like the adults have been killed, so many of them have been killed that the only people left, 50% of the population in Gaza are children. And so this wholesale killing of children, for me, it's, as a human being, this planet, we are responsible. If today people don't speak out about this, means that any conflict that comes, and it's not only in Palestine, right? It's systematically being done. Like there's a situation where you've got an apartheid regime, right? But look at how children are being treated, what is happening to children in Sudan and in Congo, you know? And it's not okay. We can't treat our children like that as a human race. If we don't speak out against that, it will keep on getting worse. Next conflict, what again? Everything that is sacred in this conflict, everything that is sacred today, before I came, 3 hours before I came, the videos started coming. Doctor from one of the biggest still standing hospitals in Gaza is asking for help, showing the children around him, saying they're being heavily bombed. You know, bombing of the hospitals, bombing of churches and mosques, a house of prayer, and the wholesale massacre of children. We agree to that. What is the next conflict in the world going to look like? And is this the legacy we want to give, since we were talking about legacy early on, to our children? What does it mean for everybody? And for the next weak person who finds themselves in a weak situation and gets, again, I understand why a lot of people are not talking about that, Mutombo. A lot of artists are seriously scared. Do you know how many artists have had their, exhibitions canceled, their works taken out of collections? Even Ai Weiwei, he's so big, and he had an exhibition cancelled. You have people, one of the guys in Art Forum, he got, BBC, CNN, people are being kicked out, people are being vilified, people are being cancelled for supporting or speaking up. So some people are afraid, but I think that you can only push people so far, and you have a lot of people who are speaking out even more. Maybe because of my history, maybe because what we were talking about, embrace and be, think and not belong at any price, right? I refuse to be silent. I don't believe in being silent, because if I am silent, I am part of the problem. And this is not something that started today, right? My lack of silence started in my whole career in the arts. Yeah. Of course, with love and with respect, I truly believe in that, but I'm not going to be silent.
Yes.
Yeah. Dope. We shouldn't be silent too, Charlie. Fred.
Yeah. It's a powerful note to end on.
Yeah.
What's happening there is just horrifying. And it's unfortunate that it feels like power is leaning on one side, and that's where everything is residing, and they get to control. But I don't know in what world it's okay to massacre children or people in general. Yeah. I think the world should have moved past the wholesale bombing and killing of any group of people for a disagreement on issues that may be, even very heart-wrenching. But the killing of people is not right and not correct.
And Fred, the thing is, it works when you have I have a post or part of the work that is about the weaponization of language. When you have a race or a people who have been systematically, for many, many years or decades, vilified and called othered, right? And you have propaganda around that, then it's easy. It happened with Black people. It happened with Native Americans. When you other people, and so many of these terms, right? Bloodthirsty, angry, savage, primitive, whatever. But then in each one of those cases, some of the animal, right? Rats or whatever, all of these are in common. And then you have the differentiating ones, like for Black people, they used to use nigger or variations of that. For Palestinians, it's terrorist, and it's jihadist, and it's things like that. But all the others are very, very similar. when for many, many years you've othered people, it makes people immediately be cautious and afraid of them, or be prejudiced against them.
And even numb.
And even numb to their pain or to their humanity. And I think this is why, but there are people waking up right now. You know, it's because of that othering, that and the way things are framed constantly in the media. Like, my God, the first thing they will tell you is Hamas attacked. You've been wiping out entire populations, and this is how you start the conversation. Hamas attacked, like, what, they should lie down and die? Like, you know, they're consistently being wiped out. Hamas doesn't exist in the West Bank. The number of children imprisoned and tortured in the West Bank every year, the human rights, organizations know this shit is on file, right? It's there. Like, okay, so Hamas is not there. Where you expect to wipe out people, and for them to what?
No retaliation whatsoever.
Not retaliate. I don't understand. Like,
Yeah, crazy.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But I just hope people start to think deeply for themselves, because some of these things don't make sense at all. If you're being objective and human. Yep. Forget objectivity. Just be human and realize it could be any one of us. Yeah.
Charlie, guys, another great episode, you know.
Yeah.
And we thank Rania for coming through the podcast.
Thank you guys so much.
I'm taking your number, by the way.
Charlie,
I might need a creative coach.
Anytime.
It was great having you on the podcast. We thank you for coming through, and for you out there, Charlie. You know the drill. Subscribe, follow, leave a comment, and recommend this podcast to another person. The F More Let's Divide podcast. Fred.
Yeah, Mutombo likes saying share, but this thing costs money. So find a way to spread the love, because we need the love back so we can keep giving you the love.
Yeah. The F More Let's Divide podcast. Fred.
Yes, sir.
We are through.
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, dope.
This is great.
Thank you guys.
This is